The hotel suite in Dubai cost more per night than most people make in a month. But as I watched my wife Vanessa scroll through her phone with that familiar look of disgust, I realized I might as well have been staying at a roadside motel in Newark. The marble floors, the panoramic view of the Burj Khalifa, the champagne chilling in the ice bucket, none of it mattered when your wife looked at you like you were something she'd scrape off her designer shoe. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Cameron, do you have to breathe so loudly? Vanessa didn't even glance up from her phone as she spoke. Her fingers moved across the screen with the practiced efficiency of a concert pianist, typing messages to God knows who, while I stood there like an idiot, holding 2 glasses of Dom Perignon. Sorry, honey. I'll try to be more considerate with my basic biological functions. I set the glasses down on the marble-topped table, the crystal making a sharp clink that seemed to echo through the tension-filled room. She finally looked up, her green eyes cold as Arctic ice. Your sarcasm isn't cute anymore, Cameron. It never really was. I'd been married to Vanessa Lorne for 8 years, and somewhere along the way, her Instagram-perfect smile had become a weapon. She was 39, looked 29 thanks to regular Botox appointments I paid for, and had built a career as a travel blogger that consisted mainly of taking pictures of herself in exotic locations while I footed the bills. Well, we're here now, I said, gesturing toward the window where Dubai's glittering skyline stretched out like a circuit board. Might as well enjoy it. I intend to. Her phone buzzed, and that smile, the real one, not the frozen mask she wore for me, lit up her face. Actually, I'm meeting some people for drinks tonight. You don't mind, do you? Of course I minded. We'd flown halfway around the world for what was supposed to be a romantic getaway, and she was already making plans that didn't include me. But I'd learned that minding things only led to fights, and fights led to her posting passive-aggressive quotes on social media about toxic relationships and finding your worth. Sure thing. I'll just sit here and count the marble tiles. She was already back to her phone, thumbs flying. Don't wait up. The rooftop bar was exactly the kind of place Vanessa lived for, all glass and chrome and beautiful people posing for photos they'd post with captions about living their best life. I nursed a whiskey while she held court at a corner table, surrounded by a group of expats and tourists who hung on her every word like she was dispensing wisdom instead of recycled motivational quotes. From my spot at the bar, I could see her in her element. The red dress that cost more than my first car, the laugh that carried just far enough to make sure everyone knew she was having the time of her life, the way she touched the arm of the guy sitting next to her, a lean, tanned man with the kind of carefully cultivated stubble that probably required more maintenance than my entire grooming routine. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa, even though she was less than 50 feet away. Having an amazing time. You should go back to the room. Early flight tomorrow, remember? We didn't have an early flight. We weren't leaving for 3 more days. I watched her lean closer to Stubble Guy, whispering something that made him laugh. Her hand lingered on his arm, fingers tracing patterns on his skin with an intimacy that made my stomach clench. Another text. Actually, don't wait up. Might be late. Dubai nightlife, you know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. The poolside cafe the next morning was nearly empty, just a few early risers and fitness enthusiasts grabbing green smoothies before their workout routines. Vanessa appeared at 10:30, wearing oversized sunglasses and the kind of flowing cover-up that screamed, "I'm too sophisticated for this place, but I'll tolerate it for the Instagram content." "Morning," she said, settling into the chair across from me with the careful movements of someone nursing a hangover. "Good morning, sunshine. How was your night exploring Dubai's cultural offerings?" She pulled out her phone, always the phone, and started scrolling. It was educational. I'll bet. Learn anything interesting about local customs? Actually, yes. She lowered her sunglasses and looked at me with those ice-green eyes. I learned that some people know how to live in the moment instead of making snide comments about everything. Some people like your new friend with the designer stubble. Her laugh was sharp as broken glass. His name is Liam, and he's more interesting in 5 minutes than you've been in 5 years. There it was, the truth, served up with her morning mimosa. Interesting how? He travels the world, really travels, not like this. She gestured dismissively at the luxury resort around us. He experiences places. He takes risks. He's alive, Cameron. When's the last time you felt alive? Probably around the time I started paying for your lifestyle. She leaned back in her chair, and for a moment, I thought she might actually look ashamed. Instead, she smiled. Not the Instagram smile, but something colder. You know what I told him last night? I told him I'd rather sleep with a homeless guy than with you. The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my face neutral. 8 years of marriage had taught me to hide the damage. That's quite a review. Should I put it on my LinkedIn profile? God, you're pathetic. She was typing again, fingers moving with vicious speed. Even now, you can't just be real for 5 minutes. Everything's a joke with you. What would you like me to say, Vanessa? That it hurts? That after 8 years of marriage, having my wife tell me she'd rather sleep with a stranger than touch her husband might sting a little? She looked up from her phone, and for just a second, I saw something that might have been surprise. Like she'd forgotten I was capable of actual emotion. At least you're being honest for once. I'm always honest. You just don't like what I'm saying. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and that real smile appeared again, the one reserved for people who weren't me. I have to go, she said, standing and gathering her things. Liam's picking me up in 20 minutes. For what? Does it matter? We're leaving tomorrow anyway. Actually, we're not. She stopped, one hand on her designer bag. What do you mean? I mean, I changed our flights. We're leaving tonight. This little vacation is over. You can't do that. I have plans. I can do whatever I want. I paid for the tickets. I can change them. Pack your things, Vanessa. We're going home. For the first time since we'd arrived in Dubai, she looked genuinely upset. Not Instagram upset, where she could turn it into content about overcoming adversity, but actually rattled. Cameron, you can't just... Watch me. I stood up and dropped a $50 bill on the table, more than enough to cover her mimosa and my coffee. The car will be here at 6. Be ready or find your own way home. As I walked away, I heard her calling after me, but I didn't turn around. I had a phone call to make to the credit card company, and then some packing to do. The flight back to Boston was 13 hours of Arctic silence. Vanessa spent the entire time staring out the window or typing furiously on her phone, occasionally shooting me looks that could have frozen the airplane's fuel lines. I used the time productively, making a series of quiet phone calls to various financial institutions and service providers. Yes, I need to report some suspicious activity on my joint accounts, I whispered into my phone while Vanessa was in the bathroom. My wife's spending patterns have become erratic. I'd like to put a temporary hold on her access until we can sort this out. By the time we landed at Logan International, Vanessa's credit cards were frozen. Her access to our joint checking account was suspended, and I'd had a very productive conversation with Derek Martinez, my general manager at the dealership. Cameron, you sure about this? Derek had asked when I called him from the Dubai airport. This sounds like it could get messy. It's already messy, Derek. I'm just cleaning house. Derek had been with me since I opened Field Luxury Motors 5 years ago. He was 52, had seen 3 divorces of his own, and understood the value of loyalty. More importantly, he understood the value of discretion. What do you need me to do? Lock down everything, change the security codes, review all the vendor contracts, and make sure our insurance is up to date. And Derek, if my wife comes by looking for her car keys, tell her they're in my office. Got it, boss. Anything else? Yeah. Call Ava and tell her we're going to need her special skills for a little project. Ava Chen was my assistant, 26 years old and brilliant with technology in ways that sometimes scared me. She'd been the one to set up all of Vanessa's social media accounts, helped her build her brand, and managed the technical side of her blogging empire. She also had access to everything: passwords, accounts, analytics, you name it. The house in Newton looked exactly the same as we'd left it 3 days ago, but somehow it felt different. The marble foyer that Vanessa had insisted on, the crystal chandelier she'd bought without consulting me, the white leather furniture that showed every speck of dust. It all looked like a museum exhibit now, a shrine to a marriage that had faded somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. "I'm going to take a shower," Vanessa announced, heading toward the stairs with her Louis Vuitton luggage. "Good idea. You might want to make it a long one." She paused on the third step. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just that you've had a long flight. Relax, unwind, take all the time you need." While she was upstairs, I made myself a drink, a real one, not the watered-down resort cocktails we'd been served in Dubai, and settled into my home office. The first order of business was changing the locks. The second was having a conversation with our neighbor, Brenda Walsh. Brenda was 48, divorced, and had turned gossip into an art form. She knew everyone's business in our neighborhood, and more importantly, she had a social media following that rivaled Vanessa's. The difference was that Brenda's followers were local, people who shopped at the same stores, ate at the same restaurants, and moved in the same social circles as my wife. "Cameron?" Brenda's voice was bright with curiosity when she answered her phone. "You're back early from Dubai. How was the trip?" "Educational," I said, echoing Vanessa's words from that morning. "Listen, Brenda, I was wondering if you might have time for coffee tomorrow. There are some things about Vanessa's recent behavior that I think you should know about." "Oh my. Is everything all right?" "Let's just say that Dubai revealed some interesting aspects of my wife's character, aspects that her followers might find illuminating." There was a pause, and I could practically hear Brenda's gossip sensors going into overdrive. "Of course, Cameron. I'm always here if you need to talk." "Thanks, Brenda. I knew I could count on you." The water was still running upstairs when Ava arrived. She let herself in through the back door. I'd given her a key months ago for times when she needed to drop off paperwork or pick up items for Vanessa's blog posts. "Derek said you needed to see me urgently," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. Ava was small and precise, with the kind of sharp intelligence that made her invaluable in business and potentially devastating as an enemy. "I need you to walk me through Vanessa's online presence," I said. "Everything. Accounts, passwords, scheduled posts, brand partnerships, the works." Ava's dark eyes narrowed slightly. "Can I ask why?" "My wife has decided that our marriage is no longer serving her needs. She's made that very clear. I think it's time her followers understood who they've really been supporting all these years. Cameron, if you're thinking about doing something to damage her brand, you should know that could have legal ramifications." "I'm not thinking about damaging anything," I said carefully. "I'm thinking about transparency, about making sure people have all the facts before they decide whether to continue supporting her lifestyle." Ava was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "What do you need to know?" We spent the next hour going through Vanessa's digital empire. Her Instagram account had 150,000 followers. Her blog generated decent ad revenue. She had partnerships with 3 major travel companies, 2 fashion brands, and a luxury skincare line. It was, I had to admit, impressive. It was also completely dependent on her image as a happily married woman, living an enviable life. "Most of her engagement comes from lifestyle content," Ava explained, scrolling through analytics on her laptop. "Her followers want to see the perfect marriage, the perfect travels, the perfect life. Take that away, and the whole thing collapses." "Exactly." The shower had stopped running upstairs. I could hear Vanessa moving around in our bedroom, probably getting ready to go out again. Ava, I need you to do something for me. Can you set up a separate admin account for all of Vanessa's social media? Something she won't notice, but that gives me oversight access? That's technically possible. But Cameron, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Vanessa appeared in the doorway of my office 20 minutes later, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before and enough perfume to fumigate the room. I'm going out, she announced. Where? Does it matter? You made it very clear that this marriage is over. I didn't say it was over. You did. In Dubai, remember? Right around the time you told me you'd rather sleep with a homeless person. She flinched slightly but recovered quickly. I was angry. No, you were honest. For once. Fine. Yes, I was honest. I'm not happy, Cameron. I haven't been happy for years. I want out. Then get out. She blinked, clearly not expecting such a simple response. What? You heard me. Get out. File for divorce, hire a lawyer, do whatever you need to do. But stop pretending this is my fault. You can't just kick me out. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. The deed is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. The utilities, the insurance, everything. It's all in my name. You want out? There's the door. For the first time since Dubai, Vanessa looked genuinely uncertain. Cameron, we need to talk about this rationally. We needed to talk about it rationally before you started screwing around with digital nomads in Dubai. Now we're past talking. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw her face change, the uncertainty replaced by something harder. Fine, I'll get a lawyer. Good. In the meantime, you might want to check your credit cards and your access to our joint accounts. She pulled out her phone and started tapping frantically. After a moment, her face went pale. You froze my accounts? I protected our assets from suspicious activity. There's a difference. This is financial abuse. This is financial responsibility. You want to leave? Leave. But you're not taking half of everything I built just because you decided marriage was boring. She stared at me for a long moment, her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. You bastard. Probably. But I'm a bastard with lawyers, accountants, and a very detailed understanding of Massachusetts divorce law. Sleep on it, Vanessa. Think about whether this is really the fight you want to have. After she left, I poured myself another drink and called Derek. How did it go with the locks? All changed. New security system installed too. She'll need the new codes to get in. Perfect. And Ava? She's working on that project you discussed. Said to tell you phase 1 will be ready by tomorrow. I smiled for the first time in days. Excellent. Derek, I think this is going to be a very interesting week. The next morning brought a series of increasingly frantic phone calls from Vanessa. I let them all go to voicemail while I sat in my office at Field Luxury Motors, listening to her voice get progressively more shrill with each message. Cameron, I can't get into the house. The locks are changed and the security system won't accept my code. Cameron, this is ridiculous. I have things I need from the house. Cameron, pick up the damn phone. We need to talk. Cameron, I'm coming to the dealership. We're going to settle this like adults. I deleted the messages and turned my attention to the morning's more pressing business. A conference call with Vanessa's largest brand partner, Lux Travel Experiences. As it turned out, they were very interested to hear about some concerning developments regarding their sponsored influencer's recent behavior. Mr. Field, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention, said Jennifer Morrison, their brand manager. Lux Travel has very strict moral clauses in our influencer contracts. If what you're suggesting is true, I'm not suggesting anything, Jennifer. I'm simply providing context for some posts you might see in the coming days. Posts that might not align with the family-friendly, committed relationship image that Vanessa has been promoting. We'll certainly keep that in mind. Thank you for the heads up. 1 down, 5 brand partnerships to go. Ava knocked on my office door around 10:30. Phase 1 is complete, she said, handing me a tablet. Take a look. The screen showed Vanessa's Instagram account, but something was different. The engagement numbers were dropping in real time, likes disappearing, comments being deleted, followers vanishing by the hundreds. How is this possible? Instagram's algorithm is very sensitive to sudden changes in engagement patterns, Ava explained. If an account experiences what looks like artificial inflation, say from bot followers or purchased engagement, the platform automatically throttles its reach. Posts stop appearing in feeds, hashtags don't work properly, the whole account gets shadow banned. And you can make it look like Vanessa was using bots? I don't have to make it look like anything. She was using bots. Has been for months. I just adjusted the parameters to make it more obvious to Instagram's detection algorithms. I stared at the numbers continuing to plummet. In the space of an hour, Vanessa had lost nearly 10,000 followers. This is brilliant. It gets better. I also scheduled some posts to go live from her account today. Posts she didn't write. What kind of posts? Ava smiled, a rare expression that made her look almost predatory. The kind that reveal what she really thinks about her followers, her real opinions about the products she endorses, some behind-the-scenes honesty about her perfect life. My phone rang. Vanessa, again. She's in the parking lot. Derek's voice came through the intercom. Wants to see you. Should I let her in? I looked at Ava, who nodded toward the tablet. Vanessa's latest honest post was going live in real time, and the comments were already pouring in. Her followers were not pleased to discover that their lifestyle guru had been calling them pathetic wannabes and desperate housewives living vicariously through my content. Send her in, Derek, but stay close, just in case. Vanessa burst through my office door like a hurricane in designer clothing. Her perfectly styled hair was disheveled, her makeup was smudged, and she was clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. What did you do? She demanded. Good morning to you too, honey. You look terrible. My Instagram is destroyed. I've lost 15,000 followers in 2 hours. My posts are being deleted, and someone is posting things from my account that I never wrote. I leaned back in my chair, projecting calm while internally celebrating. That sounds terrible. Have you tried turning it off and on again? This isn't funny, Cameron. My entire career is online. If I lose my platform, I lose everything. Everything? I thought you wanted out of this marriage because it was holding you back from living your authentic life. Isn't this just part of that authenticity? She slammed her phone down on my desk so hard I was surprised the screen didn't crack. You did this. Somehow, you're behind this. I'm flattered that you think I have that kind of technical expertise, but I can barely figure out how to post a photo on Facebook. Then you paid someone to do it. Vanessa, you're being paranoid. Maybe your followers are just starting to see through the facade. Maybe they're realizing that your perfect life isn't so perfect after all. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I could prove, and how much damage I was capable of inflicting. I want back into the house, she said finally. No. It's my home too. Not according to the deed. Not according to the mortgage. Not according to Massachusetts property law. Fine. I want my things. Make a list. I'll have Derek pack them up and deliver them wherever you're staying. I'm staying at the Marriott downtown. Do you have any idea how much that costs per night? Less than Dubai, I'm guessing. Her face flushed red with anger. You can't just cut me off financially. We're still married. And you can't just cheat on me and expect to maintain your lifestyle. We're still married, remember? I never cheated on you. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos I'd taken in Dubai. Vanessa with her hand on Liam's arm, Vanessa whispering in his ear, Vanessa looking at him the way she used to look at me. Really? Because these photos suggest otherwise. She glanced at the screen and her face went white. Those don't prove anything. Maybe not in court. But they might be interesting to your followers. Your remaining followers, I mean. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other across my desk, and for a moment, it felt like we were playing poker with our entire marriage as the stakes. Finally, she looked away. What do you want, Cameron? I want you to stop pretending you're the victim here. I want you to admit that you checked out of this marriage long before Dubai, and I want you to understand that actions have consequences. And if I do that, then maybe we can discuss this like civilized adults. Maybe we can work out a separation agreement that doesn't leave you completely destitute. She picked up her phone and stared at the screen, where her follower count was still dropping. How long do I have to decide? Take all the time you need. But Vanessa, every day you wait, every day you keep playing games and making demands, is another day your online empire crumbles a little more. Instagram algorithms are unforgiving. Once you lose momentum, it's almost impossible to get it back. She left without another word, and I turned my attention back to the tablet. Ava's scheduled posts were working perfectly. Vanessa's carefully curated image was unraveling in real time, one honest revelation at a time. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Boss, you might want to see this. I walked out to the showroom floor, where Derek was standing by the window with a grin on his face. What am I looking at? Parking lot, your wife's car. I looked outside and saw Vanessa's white BMW sitting in the lot, but something was wrong with it. The windshield was covered in what looked like yellow sticky notes. What are those? Parking tickets. Turns out the meter expired about 2 hours ago, and the parking enforcement officer has been very thorough. That's about $300 in fines right there. I watched as Vanessa emerged from the building and discovered her car. Even from a distance, I could see her shoulders shake with rage as she peeled off ticket after ticket. Derek, remind me to send a thank you card to the city's parking enforcement division. Will do, boss. Oh, and Cameron, this is the most fun I've had at work in years. As Vanessa drove away, her car trailing a few sticky notes that hadn't been properly removed, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: genuine satisfaction. The game was just getting started. Brenda Walsh's coffee shop of choice was a trendy little place called Grind in Newton Center, the kind of establishment where a basic latte cost $8 and came with a foam art design that people photographed before drinking. It was also the unofficial headquarters of our neighborhood's social network, a place where reputations were built and destroyed over artisanal pastries and fair trade espresso. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table near the window where anyone walking by could see us having our conversation. Brenda showed up precisely on time, wearing what I'd come to think of as her gathering intelligence outfit: yoga pants, an oversized sweater, and the kind of designer sunglasses that said she was too important to make eye contact with regular people. Cameron, you look terrible, she said, settling into the chair across from me with the practiced grace of someone who'd turned casual cruelty into an art form. Divorce will do that to you. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Divorce? Oh my God, I had no idea things were that bad. Neither did I, until Dubai. I spent the next 30 minutes giving Brenda a carefully edited version of recent events. I told her about Vanessa's behavior at the hotel, about her new friend Liam, about the things she'd said to me. I didn't mention the financial restrictions or Ava's technical sabotage. Those details weren't necessary for what I had in mind. She actually said she'd rather sleep with a homeless person than with you? Brenda's voice carried just far enough to reach the neighboring tables where I could see other patrons starting to pay attention. Her exact words, in public, at the hotel restaurant. Oh, Cameron, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Vanessa was capable of that kind of cruelty. The worst part is that I think she's been feeling this way for years. Dubai just gave her permission to be honest about it. Brenda leaned forward, lowering her voice to a stage whisper that somehow managed to be louder than her normal speaking voice. Is it true that she's been having an affair? I can't prove anything, but I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos from Dubai. These were taken the night she told me not to wait up for her. Brenda studied the images with the intensity of an art critic examining a masterpiece. Who is he? Some guy named Liam, calls himself a digital nomad, whatever that means. Apparently he's more exciting than a husband who works for a living. This is unbelievable. And she's been posting about your marriage like it's perfect. Just last week she had that post about finding your soulmate and growing together through challenges. I know. I've been reading her content too. Brenda was already pulling out her own phone, fingers flying across the screen. Cameron, I hope you don't mind, but I think people need to know about this. Vanessa has built her entire brand on being relationship goals. If she's been lying to her followers, do what you think is right, Brenda. I just thought you should know the truth. Within hours, Brenda's post about local influencer marriage troubles had been shared across every social media platform in our area. She'd been careful not to name names, but the details were specific enough that anyone who followed Vanessa would know exactly who she was talking about. The response was immediate and brutal. Vanessa's remaining followers, already reduced by Ava's technical manipulation, began turning on her en masse. Comment sections filled with accusations of fraud, demands for refunds from people who'd bought products based on her recommendations, and speculation about how long the marriage had really been in trouble. I was in my office at the dealership when my phone rang. Vanessa, of course. You talked to Brenda Walsh, she said without preamble. I talk to lots of people. It's called having a social life. You know what I mean. She posted about us, about Dubai. Did she? I don't really follow neighborhood gossip. Cameron, this is destroying me. My follower count is in free fall. My brand partnerships are being canceled, and someone at the gym actually asked me if it was true that I hate my husband. Well, is it? There was a long pause. That's not the point. I think that's exactly the point. You spent years building a brand based on a lie, Vanessa. You sold people a fantasy about having the perfect marriage while privately despising me. Now the truth is coming out, and you're upset about the consequences. I never said I despised you. You said you'd rather sleep with a homeless person. In the grand scheme of marital insults, that's pretty close to despising. I was angry. No, you were honest. For once in our marriage, you told me exactly how you felt. I'm just making sure other people have access to that same honesty. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, rapid and shallow, like she was having a panic attack. What do you want from me? She asked finally. I want you to stop playing the victim. I want you to take responsibility for your choices, and I want you to understand that your actions have consequences beyond just our marriage. Fine. I'll make a public statement. I'll admit that we're having problems. Too late for that. Your credibility is shot. Nobody's going to believe anything you say at this point. Then what am I supposed to do? That's not my problem anymore, Vanessa. You made your choice in Dubai. Now you get to live with it. After I hung up, I called Ava to check on the progress of Phase 2. It's going better than expected, she reported. 3 more brand partnerships have been terminated, her blog traffic is down 60%, and her Instagram engagement rate has dropped below 1%. At this point, the algorithm has basically written her off as irrelevant. What about the scheduled posts? Still going live as planned. Tomorrow's batch is particularly good, some behind-the-scenes commentary about her pathetic followers and their desperate need for validation through her content. She actually wrote that? She wrote it in a private message to someone named Sienna. Apparently, they've been making fun of her audience for months. Sienna Rodriguez was Vanessa's best friend and fellow influencer, a 38-year-old yoga instructor whose social media presence was even more insufferable than my wife's. If Vanessa had been sharing her real opinions about her followers with Sienna, there was probably enough material to keep the scandal going for weeks. Ava, you're brilliant. I know. Oh, and Cameron? You might want to check Vanessa's location. According to her phone's GPS, She's been sitting in the parking lot outside the dealership for the past 20 minutes. I looked out the window and saw her BMW parked under a streetlight, Vanessa visible behind the wheel with her phone pressed to her ear. Even from a distance, I could see that she was crying. For just a moment, I felt something that might have been sympathy. 8 years of marriage, and it had come to this. My wife sobbing alone in a parking lot while her carefully constructed life collapsed around her. Then I remembered Dubai. I remembered the way she'd looked at me with such contempt, the casual cruelty in her voice when she'd told me she'd rather be with anyone else. I remembered years of feeling like I was never quite good enough, never quite interesting enough, never quite worthy of her attention. The sympathy faded. I picked up my phone and called Derek. There's a suspicious vehicle in our parking lot. Someone's been sitting out there for a while, just watching the building. Maybe you should call security. On it, boss. 5 minutes later, I watched from my office window as a private security guard approached Vanessa's car. She started the engine and drove away without looking back. My phone buzzed with a text message. "This isn't over." I typed back, "Yes, it is." But I was wrong. It was just getting started. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor to my office. Sienna Rodriguez stood in my doorway wearing workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her perfectly highlighted hair pulled back in a ponytail that had taken 45 minutes and 3 different products to achieve the effortless look. "Cameron, we need to talk." "Do we?" I wasn't aware we had anything to discuss. She closed the door behind her and settled into the chair across from my desk without being invited. "It's about Vanessa." "What about her?" "You're destroying her life." I leaned back in my chair, studying Sienna's face. She was trying to project confidence, but I could see the worry lines around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands as she adjusted her designer workout jacket. "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not protecting her from the consequences of her choices anymore." "She made a mistake. One mistake, and you're ruining her entire career." "One mistake?" "Sienna, she spent our entire Dubai vacation making it clear that she despises me. She's been building a brand based on lies for years, taking money from people who believed in her fake perfect marriage. And now you're here defending her?" Sienna's composure cracked slightly. "She's my friend. She's your meal ticket. If Vanessa goes down, your little influencer circle loses credibility too. That's what this is really about, isn't it?" "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you do. You and Vanessa have been propping each other up for years, sharing followers, cross-promoting each other's content, building this whole fantasy lifestyle brand together. If one of you gets exposed as a fraud, it calls the authenticity of the whole operation into question." Sienna shifted in her chair, and I knew I'd hit the mark. "Cameron, what do you want? Money? We can work something out." "I want honesty. For once in this whole mess, I want someone to tell me the truth." "Fine. You want the truth? Vanessa has been miserable for years. Not just with you, with everything. The marriage, the pressure to maintain her image, the constant need to pretend her life is perfect when she feels like she's drowning. And instead of talking to me about it, she decided to have an affair in Dubai." "She didn't have an affair." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? Because I have photos that suggest otherwise." She kissed him. Once. That's it. She was drunk and lonely and feeling trapped, and she made a stupid decision that lasted about 30 seconds. And then she told me she'd rather sleep with a homeless person than touch her own husband. Sienna winced. She was lashing out. She was hurt and angry, and she wanted to hurt you back. Mission accomplished. "Cameron, please. She's learned her lesson. She knows she screwed up. But what you're doing now, this public humiliation, destroying her career, it's cruel." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder full of printed screenshots. "Speaking of cruel, Sienna, you might find these interesting." I spread the papers across my desk. They were printouts of private messages between Vanessa and Sienna, conversations Ava had recovered from Vanessa's phone during one of her technical interventions. Sienna's face went white as she recognized her own words. "These pathetic housewives actually think we're friends," I read aloud. "They buy everything we recommend and share our posts like we give a damn about their boring lives." Cameron, that was taken out of context. The best part is how desperate they are for validation. We could literally sell them dog shit if we packaged it right and called it a lifestyle choice. Stop. Sometimes I look at the comments on my posts and wonder how these people function in real life. Do they really think copying my workout routine is going to transform them into me? Sienna was staring at the papers like they were evidence of war crimes. "Where did you get these?" "Does it matter? The point is, you and Vanessa have been laughing at your followers for months. You've been taking their money, their trust, their genuine admiration, and treating it like a joke. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And now you're here asking me to have mercy on someone who's been systematically defrauding people who believed in her?" Sienna was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The worry was gone, replaced by something colder. "What do you want, Cameron?" "I want you to stop enabling her. I want you to admit that this whole influencer lifestyle you've built is based on lies and contempt for the people who support you. And if I do that, then maybe these screenshots stay private." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice. The same choice I offered Vanessa. Take responsibility for your actions or face the consequences." Sienna stood up, smoothing down her workout clothes with hands that were no longer trembling. "You know what, Cameron? I think you've made a mistake." "How's that?" "You assume that Vanessa and I are the only ones with secrets. But everyone has something they'd rather keep private. Even you. Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check. You want to play hardball? Fine. But remember that you're not the only one who knows how to dig up dirt." After she left, I sat in my office staring at the screenshots scattered across my desk. Sienna's parting words had carried a weight that made me uncomfortable. What did she know? What could she possibly have on me? I called Ava. "I need you to do a comprehensive audit of my digital footprint," I said. "Email accounts, social media, financial records, everything. If there's anything that could be used against me, I need to know about it." "Cameron, what's wrong?" "Sienna Rodriguez just threatened me. I need to know what ammunition they might have." "I'll start immediately. But Cameron, you should know, I've been monitoring Vanessa's communications, and she's been in contact with someone else. Someone who's not showing up in her usual social circles." "Who?" "I'm not sure yet. The messages are being routed through encrypted apps, but I'm working on tracing them. Whoever it is, they've been giving her advice about how to handle this situation." "What kind of advice?" "Legal advice, financial advice. And Cameron, they know things about your business that they shouldn't know." A chill ran down my spine. "What kind of things?" "Details about your vendor contracts, your insurance policies, your employee records. Someone's been feeding them inside information." I thought about the people who had access to that kind of information. Derek, obviously. Ava herself. A handful of employees who'd been with the dealership since the beginning. My accountant. My lawyer. How long has this been going on? Based on the message timestamps, at least 3 weeks. Cameron, this started before Dubai. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Vanessa hadn't just decided to leave me on a whim during our vacation. She'd been planning this for weeks, gathering intelligence, building a case against me. "Ava, I need you to find out who's helping her, and I need you to do it fast." "Already on it. But Cameron? If someone's been feeding her information about the business, they might know about what we've been doing to her social media accounts." "You think we've been compromised?" "I think we need to be very careful about our next moves." After I hung up, I sat in my office trying to process this new information. Vanessa wasn't just the scorned wife lashing out in anger. She was a strategist, and she'd been planning her exit long before Dubai. The question was, who was helping her, and what did they want in return? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop what you're doing or everyone will know about the Henderson deal. The Henderson deal was something that had happened 3 years ago, a complicated transaction involving a luxury car sale that had skirted some regulatory gray areas. It wasn't illegal, but it wasn't something I wanted scrutinized by investigators. I typed back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "A friend. Meet me at the parking garage on Huntington Avenue tonight at 8 p.m. Come alone." I stared at the message, my mind racing. Someone had been digging into my business records, looking for leverage. Someone who knew enough about my operations to find the one deal that could cause me real problems if it came to light. Someone who was working with my wife to destroy me. I had 6 hours to figure out who it was and what they wanted. 6 hours to prepare for what felt like the most important meeting of my life. 6 hours to decide whether I was going to fight back or surrender. I chose to fight. The parking garage on Huntington Avenue was the kind of place where people met when they didn't want to be seen together. 7 floors of concrete and shadows, with security cameras that hadn't worked in years and lighting that created more hiding spots than it illuminated. I arrived at 7:30, giving myself time to scope out the location and position myself strategically. The 3rd floor was nearly empty, just a few scattered cars belonging to people working late in the surrounding office buildings. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard footsteps echoing through the concrete structure. A figure emerged from the stairwell, and I felt my stomach drop as I recognized the face. Derek Martinez, my general manager. The man I'd trusted with every aspect of my business for 5 years. "Hello, Cameron." "Derek." I stepped out from behind a concrete pillar, keeping my distance. "I have to admit, I didn't see this coming. I figured you'd be surprised. How long have you been working with Vanessa?" Derek leaned against a parked car, looking older than his 52 years under the harsh fluorescent lighting. "Since about a month before Dubai. She approached me, said she was concerned about some irregularities in the business finances." Irregularities? The Henderson deal, for starters. That whole transaction was a house of cards, Cameron. If the state regulatory board ever took a close look at it, it was legal. Barely, and you know it. I studied Derek's face, looking for some sign of the man I'd thought I knew. "What did she offer you?" "Security. A guarantee that when this all came crashing down, I wouldn't go down with you." "And you believed her?" Derek shrugged. "She showed me documentation, financial records, communication logs, evidence of other deals that push the boundaries of what's allowed. Cameron, you've been walking a tightrope for years, and Vanessa has been documenting every step." "So what's the play here, Derek? What does she want?" "She wants out of the marriage with enough money to maintain her lifestyle. She wants the house, half the business assets, and a guarantee that you won't interfere with her attempts to rebuild her brand. And if I refuse, then the Henderson deal becomes public knowledge, along with the Morrison transaction, the Williams financing arrangement, and about 6 other deals that would look very suspicious under regulatory scrutiny." I felt the walls closing in around me. Vanessa hadn't just been planning to leave, she'd been building a nuclear weapon to use against me if I didn't cooperate. "You know what the funny thing is, Derek? I actually respected you. I thought you were loyal." "I was loyal. For 5 years I covered for you. I helped you bend rules. I kept my mouth shut about things that made me uncomfortable. But loyalty goes both ways, Cameron, and when your wife came to me with evidence that you'd been planning to sell the dealership and disappear with all the assets, what are you talking about? Don't play dumb. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the gradual liquidation of inventory. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" I stared at Derek in genuine confusion. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Really? Then explain the Cayman Islands account that was opened in your name 3 months ago. Explain the wire transfers that have been moving money out of the business accounts in small increments. Explain the inventory that's been disappearing from our lot." "Derek, I swear to you, I don't know anything about any of that." For the first time since he'd appeared, Derek looked uncertain. Cameron, I've seen the documentation. Bank records, transfer authorizations, account statements. It's all there. Documentation that Vanessa showed you? Yes, but she couldn't have fabricated all of this. The bank records alone would require someone with sophisticated technical skills and access to financial systems, I finished. Someone like Ava. The pieces were falling into place now. Vanessa hadn't just been planning to leave me. She'd been setting me up, creating evidence of financial crimes that would force me to accept her terms or face criminal prosecution. Derek, I think we've both been played. What do you mean? I mean, my wife is smarter than either of us gave her credit for. She didn't just want out of the marriage, she wanted to destroy me completely. And she's been using both of us to do it. Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his face went pale. She's here. Vanessa? She said she wanted to witness this conversation personally. Make sure you understood the seriousness of the situation. The elevator dinged, and Vanessa stepped out onto the parking level. But she wasn't alone. Ava was with her, along with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, well-dressed, carrying a briefcase that screamed, "Expensive lawyer." "Hello, Cameron." Vanessa's voice was calm, controlled. This wasn't the desperate woman who'd been sobbing in her car outside my dealership. This was someone else entirely, someone who'd been planning this moment for months. "Vanessa, Ava." I looked at my assistant, feeling the betrayal like a physical wound. "How long?" "Since the beginning," Ava said quietly. "Vanessa hired me before I ever started working for you. Everything I did, setting up her social media, managing her brand, helping with her technical needs, it was all preparation for this. The social media sabotage, the destroyed follower counts? Theater," Vanessa said. "We needed you to think you were winning, that you had the upper hand. It made you careless. And Derek? Was supposed to be our inside man from the start, but he developed an inconvenient conscience, so we had to motivate him differently." Derek was staring at Vanessa like he was seeing her for the first time. "You set Cameron up. The financial evidence, the offshore accounts, you created all of it." "I created the documentation, yes, but the underlying behavior it represents is real. Cameron has been bending rules and pushing boundaries for years. I just enhanced the evidence." The lawyer stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "Mr. Field, my name is Robert Chen. I represent your wife in these proceedings. We have a settlement offer that we believe you'll find reasonable. Let me guess. She gets everything and I get to avoid prison. You get to keep your freedom and a small portion of your assets. Given the alternative, it's quite generous." I looked around at the faces surrounding me. Derek, guilty and ashamed. Ava, coldly professional. The lawyer, bored and ready to finish his evening's work. And Vanessa, watching me with the satisfaction of someone who just executed a perfect plan. "You know what's funny?" I said finally. "What's that?" Vanessa asked. "You went through all this trouble to frame me for financial crimes, but you forgot one important detail." "Which is?" I pulled out my phone and held it up so everyone could see the screen. "I've been recording this entire conversation." The parking garage fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic. "Massachusetts is a one-party consent state," I continued, "which means I can legally record any conversation I'm part of without telling the other participants. And this conversation, where you've just admitted to fabricating evidence, committing fraud, and attempting to extort me, is going to be very interesting to both the police and the State Bar Association." Vanessa's composure finally cracked. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Ava, you're particularly screwed here. Computer fraud, identity theft, corporate espionage. You're looking at serious federal charges." Ava's face had gone white. "Cameron, we can work something out." "No, we can't. Derek, you might be able to claim coercion, given that they deceived you about the evidence, but you'll still lose your job and probably face charges for conspiracy." Cameron, please, Derek started. And Mr. Chen, I turned to the lawyer, I hope your malpractice insurance is up to date, because knowingly participating in an extortion scheme is going to cost you your license. Chen was already backing toward the elevator. I was never here. I don't know any of you. Too late for that. You're on the recording too. Vanessa was staring at me with a mixture of rage and disbelief. You can't do this. I can do exactly this. In fact, I'm going to do more than this. I pulled out a second phone, a backup device I'd been carrying since Sienna's visit to my office. This phone has been live streaming our conversation to a private server. The recording is automatically uploaded to cloud storage and emailed to my lawyer, my accountant, and 3 different news outlets. Even if something happens to me tonight, the evidence survives. You're insane, Vanessa whispered. I'm thorough. You taught me that, actually. All those years of watching you plan and scheme and manipulate people, I learned a lot about preparation. Ava was backing toward the stairwell. I'm leaving. This is over. Actually, it's just getting started. See, while you were busy fabricating evidence against me, I was doing some real detective work, and I found some very interesting information about your background, Ava. She froze. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the embezzlement charges in California, the ones that were dropped when you agreed to make restitution and leave the state. I'm talking about the identity theft conviction in Nevada. I'm talking about the fact that Ava Chen isn't even your real name. Vanessa turned to stare at Ava with shock. Is that true? It doesn't matter, Ava said desperately. None of that has anything to do with this. It has everything to do with this. You're a career criminal, and my wife hired you to help frame me. That's going to be very interesting to federal investigators. Derek was already walking toward the elevator. I'm done. Vanessa, Cameron, work this out between yourselves. I want no part of it. Smart choice, Derek. There might be hope for you yet. Within minutes, the parking garage was empty, except for Vanessa and me. She stood there in her designer clothes, looking lost and defeated, like a general whose army had just abandoned her on the battlefield. So, what happens now? She asked. Now you're going to sign a very different kind of settlement agreement, one where you get nothing except the promise that I won't press charges for fraud and extortion. Cameron, please. I know I screwed up, but you didn't screw up, Vanessa. You committed multiple felonies in an attempt to destroy my life and steal my assets. There's a difference. What about the social media thing? You destroyed my career. Actually, I didn't. Ava did on your orders as part of your plan to manipulate me. Congratulations, you played yourself. Vanessa was crying now, but they weren't the manipulative tears I'd seen so many times before. These were the tears of someone who'd finally realized the magnitude of their mistakes. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't expect to get caught. So what now? You're going to destroy me completely? I looked at my wife, soon to be ex-wife, and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no regret. Just emptiness, where 8 years of marriage used to be. I'm not going to destroy you, Vanessa. You already did that yourself. I'm just not going to save you from the consequences anymore. I turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving her alone in the concrete wilderness of the parking garage. Cameron, wait! I didn't turn around. Please, we can work something out. I'll give you whatever you want. The elevator doors closed, cutting off her voice. As I descended toward street level, I thought about the recording on my phone, the evidence that would ensure Vanessa, Ava, and possibly Derek faced serious legal consequences for their actions. I thought about the dealership that would remain mine, the house that would remain mine, the life that I could now rebuild without the constant weight of someone else's contempt. I thought about Dubai, and the moment when Vanessa had told me she'd rather sleep with a homeless person than touch her husband. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to my lawyer. I have evidence of attempted fraud and extortion by my wife and her associates. We need to meet first thing Monday morning. Then I sent another text, this one to Brenda Walsh. The Vanessa situation has taken an interesting turn. Coffee tomorrow? I have quite a story to tell. Finally, I called Derek's number. He answered on the first ring. Cameron, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean much, but… Derek, you made a mistake. A big one. But you were deceived by professionals, and you tried to do the right thing when you realized what was happening. Does that mean I still have a job? It means we'll talk on Monday. Bring your lawyer. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have a lot to sort out. I hung up and stepped out of the parking garage into the cool Boston night. The city lights sparkled around me, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. My phone buzzed with one final text from Vanessa. I hate you. I typed back, I know. You made that very clear in Dubai. Then I blocked her number and walked home to my house, where I poured myself a drink and sat in my office, planning the next phase of my life. A life without lies. A life without manipulation. A life without someone who'd rather sleep with a homeless person than with me. It was going to be a good life.